גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, נה 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 נה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, נה 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 נה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. Shabbat Shalom to folks in front of me and anyone live streaming. Welcome. We're here for Shabbat. We're here for Shavuot, which begins this evening, and which we're celebrating this morning. We're getting ready for this morning by celebrating the leadership of a class of 10th and 11th graders, our Chizuk students, who are going to be amazing. Thank you so much. Put them right over there on the table. Yeah. Thank you so much. Who will be co-leading the service with me this morning, sharing some of their thinking around the prayer service and leading some of the prayers. So, if you're on live stream and you have any questions, the wonderful Andrew Logan perhaps can answer them for you on the chat. We have exits this way. And invite you to join me in turning your electronics off so we can be really present in the moment. We'll begin by acknowledging that most of us, those in this room at least, are davening today on the ancestral lands of the Anacostan people. And so we'll be aware that we occupy an Anacostan homeland, and that their presence is imbued in this land, these rivers, islands, and coastal plains. We offer our respects to their elders, past and present. If you're live streaming and you'd like to share where you are live streaming from, feel free to put that in the chat box. Turn to page 10 in our Sidurim, our prayer books. You can find them in the bookshelf if you don't have one yet. And we'll sing Ma Tovu with gratitude for the places, both in person and virtual, in which we're able to gather. Ma Tovu, Ohala Hayako, Bottom of page 10, we have a blessing for Talmud Torah, for Torah study. It's traditional to begin a morning service with just a little bit of Torah study. We'll have time for more later, but for now, join me in the blessing right below Talmud Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So our little tiny bit of Torah study is actually the last paragraph on this page. And you can find the English on the right-hand side of the page, which let's read together. It's from the prophet Hosea. I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you to me through social justice and rule of law, through acts of loving kindness and compassion. I will betroth you to me in mutual trust, and you will know Adonai. So as we get ready for Shavuot, we'll be thinking more and more about like what it meant for us to be at the foot of Mount Sinai, getting ready to receive those mitzvot, getting ready to take on that commitment to the laws of Torah, to mitzvot. And I like this framing here of a betrothal and this idea of mutual trust. So we'll be thinking more about that later, about what it means to have like a two-way relationship, I guess, or we'll talk about that more. But for now, let's turn to page 12. And we'll begin our morning blessings with Elohai Neshama, words that reiterate this idea that we know is true, but that's hard to remember sometimes. That every morning we wake up with a fresh start, and that the inside of us is ultimately pure. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehoragi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehoragi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi Page 13, then with the second stanza. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lesachvei bina להבחין בין יום ובין לילה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שעשני בצלמו. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שעשני בת חורין. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שעשני ישראל. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, פוקח עברים. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, מלביש ערומים. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, מתיר אסורים. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, זוקף כפופים. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, רוקע הארץ על המים. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שעשה לי כל צורכי. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, אשר הכין מצעדי גבר. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, עוזר ישראל בגבורה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, עוטר ישראל בתפארה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, הנותן ליעף כוח. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, המעביר שינה מעיניי ותנומה מעפעפיי. Page 18. אליך אדוני אקרא, ואל אדוני אתחנן. אליך אדוני אקרא, ואל אדוני אתחנן. שם אדוני וחונני, אדוני היה עוזר לי. שם אדוני Shabbat Shalom, folks who just walked in. Our Siddurim are hidden in the bookcase right there. It looks like there's nothing in the bookcase if you just look at the top shelf, but at least I feel like that's an optical illusion that I encountered this morning when I first looked. We're on page 19. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Shema, V'haya ha'olam, Baruch Oseh Bereshit, Baruch Omer Ve'oseh, Baruch Gozer Umekayem, Baruch Merachem al haaretz, Baruch Merachem al habriyot, Baruch Meshalem Zachar Tov Yireyav, Baruch Chai La'ad V'Kayam Lanetzach, Baruch Bodeh U'Matzil, Baruch Hu U'Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. Page 29. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, od yehalelucha selah. Tehillah leDavid, aromimcha Elohai hamelech, v'avacha shimcha leolam va'ed. Gadol Adonai mulal me'od, v'li gdulato ein cheker. Hadar kavod odecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha. Zecher rab tuvcha yabiu, v'tzidkatcha yeranenu. Tov Adonai lakol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav. כבוד מלכותך יאמרו, וגבורתך ידברו. מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. הנה כל אליך יסברו, ואתה נותן להם את אכלם בעיתו. צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסיד בכל מעשיו. צאן יראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיעם. תהילת אדוני ידבר פי, יברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה. Page 32. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah את אדוני מן השמיים, הללוהו במרומים, הללוהו כל מלאכיו, הללוהו כל צבאיו, הללוהו שמש וירח, הללוהו כל כוכבי אור, הללוהו שמי השמיים והמים אשר מעל השמיים, והעלו את שם אדוני כי הוא ציווה ונבראו, ויעמידם לעד לעולם, חוק נתן ולא יעבור. הללו את אדוני מן הארץ, תנינים בכל תהומות, ושוב ארד שלג וקיטו, רוח שערה ושא דברו, הערים בכל גבעות, את פרי בכל ארזים, החיה בכל בהמה, רמז וציפור כנף, מלכי ארץ בכל לאומים, שרים בכל שופטי ארץ, בחורים וגם בתולות, זקנים עם נערים, והעלו את שם אדוני כי נשגב שמו לבדו, עודו על ארץ ושמיים, וירם קרן לעמו, וגילה לכל חסידיו, לישראל עם קרובו. הללויה, 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 So we're almost done with the warm-up section of our service, Psuke de Zimra. We're on our final psalm, page 33. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 El Bikuksho, hallelujah, Birkia Uzor, hallelujah, Bigvuruta, hallelujah, Kerogulo, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 b'tzika shofar, hallelujah, b'never b'chinor, hallelujah, b'tzuf u'machor, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 b'tzitza lishama, hallelujah, b'tzitza l'tuah. Page 35. נשמת כל חי תברך את שמך אדוני אלוהינו ורוח כל בשר תברך למלך מלכנו תמיד מן העולם ועד העולם אתה אל ומברכן לנו מלך כל המושיע בודר מציל ומפרנס ומחכם בורא צרה וצוקה אין לנו מלך אתה. Page 39, האל בתעצמות עוזך, גדול ביכולת שמך, הגיבור לנצח בנורא בנורותיך, המלך היושב על כיסא רם ונישא, שוכן עד מרום וקדוש שמו, וכתוב חנינו צדיקים באדוני, משרים נאווה תהילה. Page 40, ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ, לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו אלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, שיר ושבחה הלל וזמרה, עוז וממשלה, נצח גדולה וגבורה, תהילה ותפארת, קדושה ומלכות, ברכות והודאות, מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודעות אדוני נפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך אחרי העולמים. Let's rise, if it's your custom, for the Chatzi Kaddish on page 41. התגדל והתקדש שמך רבה, ועמד יברח ילתה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמך רבה מברך לעולם ולמיה מיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. And have a seat for just a moment. I'd like to invite up Claire and Maddie to lead us into Baruch.
The Baruch is the call to prayer. Prayer is defined as a request for help or an expression of gratitude. Yet historically, prayer has been a way to cope with the misfortunes of life. Given the past of Jewish people, this makes total sense. Prayer is a way to honor our strength and remember our past.
We need a minyan, a community around us, to recite the Baruch. Having the Jewish community provides a sense of security because you know you'll always be accepted and protected by the community. It allows you to connect with people all over the world, literally, because the Jewish community is everywhere, and it gives you a sense of belonging.
Shakoach. Thanks. Let's rise for the call to prayer. Page 42. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. You may be seated. The next section of our service is Yotzer, and I'm going to invite up Jack and Claire once again to lead us into it.
The Yotzer acknowledges God as the creator of all, including both good and evil. For me, the best way to deal with evil in the world is by acknowledging suffering that some people have to go through and feeling as much empathy as possible for them. If I ignore my true feelings about despair, then I end up feeling the suffering more, and it affects me more. By acknowledging how suffering makes me feel, my thoughts on the matter, I can cope with my emotions better. God teaches us to be grateful for what we have been given, and when you consider the immense pain some people have to go through just to live, it is easy to feel appreciative.
Evil and despair is inevitable. Where there's good, there must be evil. The two must exist simultaneously, balancing each other out. There is no such thing as a wholly evil creation. It would be neutral with no good to compare it to, and vice versa. A community aids in the process of coping with despair by offering a support system. In the Jewish community, God comes into play as faith and hope. Evil reminds us of the power of good.
שכח. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, יוצר אור וחושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. Page 43. האל פותח בכל יום, דלתות שערים מזרח, פוקח על עוני רקיע, צריכה ממון מגובלה, פנה מלכון שבטה. Page 44. אין כערכך ואין זולתך, אפס בלתך ומי דומה לך. Page 45. אל אדון על כל המעשים ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה גודלו וטובו מלא עולם דעת ותבונה סובבים אותו המתגאה החיות הקודש ונדר בכבוד על המרכבה זכות ומישור לפני חיסו חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו יצרם בדעת ובינה ובשכל כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה נאה זיום בכל העולם שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם עושים בהם הרצון קונם פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמות צולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרח אורה והתקין צורתה לבנה שבח נותנים לו עוד צבא מרום תפארת וגדולה צרפים ועוד פנים וחיות הקודש ינאי 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 Page 47. נתברך צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו בורא קדושים ישתבח שמך עד מלכנו כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים וכולם עושים באימה ביראה רצון קונם וכולם בוטחים את פיהם בקדושה ובתורה בשירה ובזמרה ומברכים ומשבחים ומפארים ומריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול הגיבור והנורא הקדוש הוא וכולם מקבלים עליהם עוד מלכות שמיים זה מזה ונותנים רשות זה לזה להקדיש ליוצרם בנחת רוח בשפה ברורה ובנעימה קדושה כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים בגירה קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות ולא כל הארץ כבודו האופנים בחיות הקודש ברעש גדול מתנסים לעומת צרפים לעומתם משבחים ואומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו לאל ברוך נמות ייתנו. Bottom of the page. אור חדש על ציון תאיר אור חדש על ציון תאיר ונזכה כולנו מהירה לאורו ונזכה כולנו Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. I'd like to invite up Eli, Jack, and Maddie to lead us into Ahava Rabbah.
Ahava means great love. Unconditional love is love that will make you stand by your loved ones no matter what they're going through or what they did. Unconditional love is the ability to love someone and forget someone has wronged you or someone else.
Unconditional love is fully committing yourself to the happiness of another person. It's tying your emotions so closely to someone else's that you cannot be truly happy if they are miserable, and you cannot be truly sad if they are enjoying themselves. Love means always caring, providing attention, and making room for another person in your life.
Ahava Rabbah states that we receive love through mitzvot, or commandments. Mitzvot almost provide a sense of security or safety around doing good deeds. You have a guide to help you understand right versus wrong. If you truly want to be a good person or do good things and help others, mitzvot make it incredibly easy to do so. They give you a codified way, laws, that basically tell you how to be a better person. The framework of mitzvot ensure that goodness cannot go extinct because it ensures that goodness can always exist as long as you do mitzvot.
Mr. Koch, page 49. Ahava Rabbah, ahavtanu, ahava Rabbah, ahavtanu, ahava Rabbah, ahavtanu, ahava Rabbah, ahavtanu, Adonai, Eloheinu, echad nagol v'avita rachamata aleinu. והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, וייחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם בוער, ולא קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. We gather together the four corners of our talitot, imagining, envisioning a time when all people will gather together, safe at home, united in peace. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועתך ובנו בחרת עבודתך, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלע באמת, להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. To invite Claire up to lead us in the Shema and Be'ahavta on page 51.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובבטח בדרך,
ובשבתך ובבטחה,
ובבטח, והיו ותטפו בין עיניך,
על מזוזות ביתך,
ובשעריך. Continue silently. Adonai Elohechem emet. Ezrat Avotenu V'Imotenu. Page 57, I'd like to invite Maddie and Jack up to lead us into the to Micha Mocha, and Eli to lead it.
Micha Mocha is the song our ancestors sang as they walked to freedom. Freedom is the ability to do what you love unconditionally and express yourself freely. The liberation of others is so important. I've always thought it is unfair to be able to enjoy various freedoms while other people cannot, which is why, as long as we are enjoying freedoms of our own, if it is in our power, we should actively be trying to liberate others to our level. Of course, I don't think people should feel guilt of any sort for having freedom. Instead, I think people should feel responsibility to help liberate others.
Freedom to me is the right to be respected as an equal member of a community. Freedom is being deserving of basic human rights and to no longer be constricted by other people's image of you. It is the ability to choose what you do with your time, how you spend your time, and who you want to spend your time with. Every person deserves these things, and it is up to those who already have freedom to help others in need. The only way society ever changes is when the people in power feel empathy and generosity towards oppressed people without any self-interest.
All right.
Micha Mocha, Micha Mocha, Micha Mocha, Micha Mocha, Micha Mocha, Micha Mocha, Ba'elim Adonai. Micha Mocha, Micha Mocha, Micha Mocha, Micha Mocha, Micha Mocha, Micha Mocha, Nedar Ba'Kodesh, Noah Beinut, Oseh Peleh, Noah Beinut, Oseh Peleh. Lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai lai lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai lai lai, ya lai lai, ya lai, ya lai, ya lai, ya lai, lai lai, ya lai. Shakoach. Eli, you can stay right up there, and Jack, you can come up as well. They'll be leading us into the Amidah in just a moment. After they do, we'll all rise. We'll face east toward Jerusalem. At least, I'm assuming anyone on live stream is also west of Jerusalem. We'll face that way. And then we'll start off with some brachot all together after moving into our own thoughts, our own prayers, our own exploration of the liturgy. When you're done with that, you can just be seated as soon as you're ready. You don't have to wait for anyone else. But for now, Eli and Jack.
The Amidah is an opportunity to talk to God. When we talk to God, we are really talking to ourselves. When we ask God for help, we are really asking ourselves what we can do to help ourselves. Talking to God gives people a clear understanding of the situation. I often talk to myself with no one but God and myself to hear me. This helps me clear my mind and rationalize recent events in my life.
God is an ever-growing conscience. a moral compass that guides people to choosing the purest or holiest choices in life. When we talk to God, we are receiving advice about what the next step is in our life. This is often not the easiest thing, and sometimes it doesn't benefit us directly. God guides our community to do what's best for the world so we can live in a better place. I believe that by talking to God, we are recentering our moral compass and preparing to make the next good choice in our life.
Please rise. Tzur Yisrael, Uma Bezrat Yisrael, Uftech Idumecha, Yehuda veYisrael. Go'alenu, Adonai Tzevaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael. Baruch Ata Adonai, Ka'al Yisrael. Page 58. Adonai Tzefatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל העליון, גומר חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אהבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מחוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד אתה, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים והופך חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות ומדום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. מקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנסים לעומת צרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתקדש ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, ודור ודור לדור ודור ונצח נצחים. ועינינו תראינה מלכותך, כדבר אמור בשירי עוזך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לא ימוש לעולם. לדור ודור נגיד גד לך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גד לך, כי המלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה, כי המלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. At your own pace. Be seated when you're ready. We'll join together on page 73. Oseh shalom b'romav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'yavo Yisrael, ve'yimru imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'yavo Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'yavo Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'yavo Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Reflecting on these words, Oseh Shalom, I'd like to invite up Claire and Maddie.
The best way we can promote peace in the world is through compassion and education. By simply spreading awareness, caring about other people, and helping others, we can make this world a better, more peaceful place.
Peace starts with the individual, and most importantly, starts with yourself. If you cannot honestly consider yourself a peaceful person, how can you promote peace to others? It starts by taking steps to gain awareness about moments where you may be hurting others. Then, especially if you feel as if you cannot personally make a drastic impact on the entire world, you can always promote peace within your own community, such as your school for us.
Let's begin to transition to the Torah service with the Kaddish Shalem on page 74. Please rise if it is your custom. יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, ואמר יברך יותה וימליך מלכותה, בחיירון ובמכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי המאיה, יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה, שמי לקודשה ויחו. לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, משפחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צאתנו ורצון דכל בישראל, קדם אבון דבישמיא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיא, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו amen. All right, you may be seated. And as we prepare for the Torah service, I'd like to invite up Jack, Claire, and Maddie. Jack will be leading us on page 75. Claire will be opening the ark when it's time, and Maddie will be leading us in Be'an Arachitz. But for now, page 75.
אין כמוך לאלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל עמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Adonai oz le'amon yitain, Adonai yivarer et amo v'shalom. Av ha'arachamim et yira v'tzorecha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, ki ve'ah levad patachnu, melech chelam v'nisa adon olamim. Please rise in body or in spirit as the ark is open. Vayi ben Saharon, Vayomer Moshe,
Kuma Adonai, ve'afutzu oivecha, ve'yanusu misanecha, mipanecha, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, u'levar Adonai mi'Yerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Do I invite Maddie to lead us in the middle of page 77? Kadisha Yakira, Anaimal Tushbechan, Be'anachetz, Be'anachetz, Belishme Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Anaimal Tushbechan, Yehera Avakadama ותפתח ליבי באור העתה, ותשליט משאלים דליבי, וליבה דכל עמך ישראל, לטבו חיים ולשלם. Amen. Asher Koach. All right, Jack. Yeah.
Yep, I got it. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Yadlu le'Adonai eti, Uromema Shemo Yachdav.
Lecha Adonai hagedula, v'hagevura, v'hatiferet, v'hanetzach, v'hahod. Ki cho b'shamayim u'ba'aretz, ki cho b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha, v'habitnase lechol rosh. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, ve'yishtachavu, ve'yishtachavu, lehadom raglav kadoshu. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, ve'yishtachavu, ve'yishtachavu, lehakosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Asher Koach. You may all be seated. Except for Yosh, who I'm going to invite up for the first Aliyah. Thank you for volunteering. What did you say?
I thought you were sending me away.
Yeah, except for Yosh, you must believe. Actually, so is anyone saying, is anyone wanting to bench Gomel this morning? Has anyone recently recovered from illness, survived an accident, surgery, anything like that you'd like to do an aliyah for? Great, all right, that's good. Is anyone celebrating a simcha, like a birthday, graduation?
I finished my first year of college and I just came back from Israel.
Brilliant, I didn't know you were in Israel.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you.
Do you want to come up for the first aliyah? Amazing. Remind me of your Hebrew name. Amazing. Ta'amod, Gabriela, Bat Gila, Emmanuel, L'Aliyah HaRishona. So you could come over here. And yes, we are. Baruch Adonai Ambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et shirato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
אמן. ועל מזבח הזהב יפרסו בגד תכלת וכיסו אותו במכסה אור תחש ושמו את בדיו ולקחו את כל כלי השרת אשר ישרתו בהם בקודש ונתנו אל בגד תכלת וכיסו אותם במכסה אור תחש ונתנו עלמות ודישנו את המזבח ופרסו עליו בגד ארגמן.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah shemet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shakoach. You can come stand over here. and I'm excited to hear about your trip for your first year of college. Amazing. So for the second Aliyah, and the third, Dan's going to be chanting because he's amazing. For the second Aliyah, I'd like to invite up parents of Chizuk students. So Eric, and Joe, you want to come do the blessing for the second Torah reading? I've seen you all do it before. Although it's been actually not that long for any of you, weirdly, since your most recent kid's mitzvah. The longest for you, I think. Yeah. All right, so we're going to show you where Dan is starting, which is, okay, this is where we
familiar.
come on here. There. Does that look right?
Yep.
Okay. So when you can take your talitot and put it there.
Baruch Adonai Barach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Ba'ed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Ba'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Chabarnu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'natnu alav et kol kelav asher yishartu alav bahem et hamachtot et hamizlagot v'et haya'im v'et hamizrakot kol kelei hamizbeach v'farsu alav kisui or tachash v'samu badav V'chila acharon uvanav L'chaset et hakodesh Et kol kalei hakodesh V'insoa hamahaneh V'acharechein Yavo v'nei kechat laset V'lo yig'u el hakodesh V'ametu Ele Masa v'nei kechat Be'ohel moed Ufkudat Elazar Ben Aharon HaKohen Shemen HaMaor Uktoret HaSamim Uminchat HaTamid B'Shemen HaMishcha Pekudat Kol HaMishkan B'chol Asher Bo B'Kodesh Uv'Chelav
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher natan lanu Torat Emet V'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Yasher koach. So Gabrielle, you can have a seat. You guys can come over here. And I'd like to invite up Elijah, Maddie, and Claire for the last Aliyah. Namdu Anshe Chizuk Aliyah Shlishit. Over here. Do you know where you are?
Easy. It's right at the top.
Oh, brilliant. All right, so one of you take a talit.
Or Siddur.
Or is that a talit? No. Oh. You could have put me, or this. I thought that was a talit this whole time. I was like, that's such a cool one. It's perfect for summer. Oh, amazing. Okay. So here, we're gesticulating towards the top of here and kissing it.
Oh, my bad.
It's hard. You know, do what you got. It's nice.
Baruch Adonai HaBorach.
Baruch Adonai HaBorach Le'olam Ba'ed.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher B'taranu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe v'el Aharon lemor al tachritu et shevet mishpechat hakati mitoch haleviim v'zot asu lahem v'chayu lo yamutu B'gishtam et kodesh hakodeshim. Aharon uvanav yavo'u v'samu otam. Ish al avodato v'al masa'o. V'lo yavo'u lir'o kevala et hakodesh b'ametu.
Take an attempted.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan לנו Torah emet v'chaye olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher koach. You can all be seated. Yasher koach, yasher koach, yasher koach. While we have the Torah out in front of us open, let's just take a moment to say a Misha Berach HaCholim, a blessing for those in need of healing. We've got an unfortunately high number of folks in our community right now who are in the hospital, in rehab, with COVID, dealing with something else. So there are a lot of folks I'm thinking of, and I imagine you are too. So you can find the words on page 82, all the way on the right-hand side of the page, under guideposts, the last two paragraphs. It's very hidden, but it is there. And we'll sing together. But first, if you'd like to say names of folks that you're thinking of, you can do so now. So on this side of the room. Shabbat avotenu mikol habracha la'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha berach avotenu mikol habracha la'imotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shleima, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. All right. One more thing we do with the Torah out in front of us before we put it away is take a moment for some Torah study. If someone to help hand these out, or like take one and pass on the side of the room or something. We've been having a lot of bar mitzvahs lately, and so we haven't been able to do this in the middle of a service, but back in the day when we didn't have a bar mitzvah, like every time we're at the Shabbat morning service, we used to do this like every time. So this feels like a throwback, but this is our normal thing, or at least it was. So again, we are preparing for Shavuot, the moment when we, and I'm not saying our ancestors, I'm saying like we, because the rabbis tell us that like every Jew was there in some form at Mount Sinai when the first of the mitzvot were given. So we're looking back to that time. So you'll see here in Exodus and Shemot, it says, Moses, took the record of the covenant and read it aloud to the people. And they all said, the last two words are in Hebrew, the last two words in Hebrew are, Na'aseh v'nishma. It says here in the English, like, all that Adonai has spoken, we will faithfully do, but it literally says, we will do and we will hear. So the energy is very open, let's say, very open-minded. They're basically saying, like, okay, whatever it is that it's going to be, we'll listen to it later. We're already going to tell you we're consenting. So what do the rabbis tell us about this? In the Talmud, Shabbat 88a, Rabbi Elazar says, when the Jewish people accorded precedence to the declaration, we will do over we will hear, when they said, like, we are going to be game for whatever these mitzvot are before we've actually, like, read the fine print, a divine voice emerged and said to them, who revealed to my children this secret that the ministering angels use? As it is written, blessed Adonai, you angels of God, you mighty in strength that fulfill God's word, hearkening to the voice of God's word. First, the angels fulfill God's word, and then afterwards they hearken. So Rabbi Elazar is basically saying that this is, like, such an angelic thing to do, to be, like, open to agreeing to this covenant, to these commandments, to this relationship before actually even knowing what it is. So that's one way of looking at it. I also wanted to bring something from another part of the Talmud, from Avodah Zarah, 19a, that has a kind of different slant. So they're referencing this line from Psalms, but their delight is in the Torah of the Lord. And Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says, a person can learn Torah only from a place in the Torah that their heart desires. As it is stated, but their delight is in the Torah of the Lord. That is, their delight is in the part of the Torah that they wish to study. You can only learn Torah if you're interested in that kind of Torah, if you believe in that kind of Torah. It's a little bit circular, but, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I'll do this thing, whatever it is. It's like, I'll do it if I'm interested. So the Gemara, the Talmud continues, relates, Levi and Rabbi Shimon, son of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, were sitting before Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and they were learning the Torah portion. And when they finished the book they were learning, and they were ready to bring a new subject together, Levi said, let them bring us the book of Proverbs. And Rabbi Shimon, son of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, said, let them bring us the book of Psalms. They wanted to learn two different things. He compelled Levi to acquiesce, and they brought a book of Psalms. When they arrived here at the verse, but his delight is in the Torah of the Lord, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi explained the verse and said, a person can only learn Torah from a place in the Torah that his heart desires. And Levi said, my teacher, you've given me permission to rise and leave. Like, okay, because I don't want to do this right now, so I'm just going to go. So we've got different models of what it means to engage with Torah, to be involved with Jewish learning, to be involved with the commandments, to be involved in, like, Judaism, I guess you could even say. And so at this time when we're thinking back about, like, that time of revelation, receiving the commandments, at a time when we've got, like, 10th and 11th graders in front of us, like, leading the community, sharing their thoughts on prayers, during a time in their lives where they, like, very much don't have to be here at all. And, you know, like, many of their peers aren't, right? Like, it's you know, this is a time of coming back. I'm curious, like, how do you all relate to these texts? The idea that, like, it's really angelic to just, like, be like, okay, Torah, I'll take it in. I don't even care what it says. Like, I'm for it. Or to be like, I'll do what I'm into. Like, I don't know. Is there a model that feels more real to you, that feels more resonant to you, that feels more feasible to you, that feels more Jewish to you? Any reactions? Yeah? Say more.
Just wait till you're interested, you might not do so. But I think it's not realistic to say, sure, I'll accept everything without first doing that. I'm thinking once the
Yeah.
But if you can't find a way to be interested and to engage, then it's not going to stick with you. You need to go through those impulses.
That sounds right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Gabriella.
So, coming back from last year, the college in Jewish studies degree in Jewish studies program, with a bunch of students who have a variety of observances, it's been really interesting to me to see how, like some of my classmates, they will show up to discussions, we'll discuss Torah for a class, but they won't really be as on at Hillel, and that's okay. And other people are really so much more invested in the observance of the commandments. And for me, like my personal navigation of this is I'm really down to listen to Torah, but I'm not going to follow the mitzvot that don't feel right to me. And some of them maybe I'll want to follow at a later point in my life, and some of them I probably never will. And I think I'm very okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Wow, that's interesting to have that case study in your college almost. It's really interesting. Wow. So, okay, when we have 10th and 11th graders here to lead services for Chizuk, a question I often get beforehand is I already had my bar mitzvah. I already had my bat mitzvah. Why am I doing this again? And for me, I feel after I hear you guys speak, it's really obvious because so much changes for you guys in a year or in 2 years or in 3 years. So to me, it's really obvious that when you're becoming a bat mitzvah, you're in one stage of your life, and the Torah that you have to learn and the Torah that you have to share is really, really different from halfway through high school. But I'm curious just from anyone in this room, do you feel like the Torah you're committed to now, or the Judaism you're committed to now in this stage of your life, whatever that is different from the Torah you were committed to when you became bat mitzvah, bar mitzvah? Are you committed to Judaism in the same way? Are you looking at Judaism or Torah or mitzvot in the same way? And how would you define that difference or that similarity? Yeah.
I'm really happy and proud to say that the inserts I'm looking at it in the same way. For me, what's changed is when I moved to New York, I simply have more access to more Torah study, and I have more access to more Jewish communities that have greater frequency of services. And I think for me, it's not even necessarily about how our behavior changes, but it's maybe how our conditions change. And if we have opportunity to have more, then we might flourish more, or we might even stay the same and still have the same mindset. And for me, I'm really happy that I haven't deviated from who I was raised to be.
That's cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Does anyone feel like things have changed a lot? Yeah.
I think things have changed a lot just because I've matured and I've grown and been able to apply what I've learned in the Torah more, and it's more philosophical. But when I was being bar mitzvah, I think that was 3 years ago. I was less mature and I couldn't really think of real world applications.
That makes sense. Yeah. Living it, yeah, Jack.
I think that the moral choices I have to make on a daily basis now are much more complex, many facets than they were when I was a 7th grader. And I think in that sense, I need to look at the Torah in a new way and figure out the answers to some of this stuff.
That's a good insight. Yeah, that's cool. Other thoughts? So, yeah, Eric.
I was just thinking, every once in a while, when you look at your phone, you see pictures of your kids when they were 13, and you realize how totally different they are.
Yeah.
And for those of us behind these guys, it's even smaller, totally different people. So it'd be hard to imagine that you don't evolve your interests and beliefs, see Judaism, just between 13 and 16 or 17. Not to mention all of us back here.
It's cool to think about. For me, I think this balance of Do we just like take in all the Torah and say like, yes, 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 I'm down, versus like pick and choose what we're interested in? Like my sort of grounding framework for that balance is that of the idea of reconstructing. So a lot of you know I went to the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, the Reconstructionist Rabbinical School, and what that word means is that Torah, tradition, it's all incredibly important, but if there are parts of it that don't reflect your contemporary values, contemporary learning, like where you are at in the world at this point in time, you might have to reconstruct it. You might have to do something a little bit different with it. But the different thing is not just to be like, bye, never looking at you again. You keep looking at it, but maybe you look at it in a different way, or maybe you look at it with anger, but like you keep looking at it. It's still there. It's still Torah. The words never change. The conversation around it is just always changing. And so I have a gift that I'm really excited about for the Chizuk students that I think is like a really beautiful illustration of that work of taking every piece of Torah and like really being there with it, but maybe in a different way as time moves on. So inside these books are your Chizuk certificates that says you did this thing, but also this book is really, really cool and I love it. It's Pirkei Avot. It's the beginning of the Mishnah. I guess like ethical explorations from the ancient rabbis. These words are thousands of years old, but this is in graphic novel form. And it's, all the words are like exactly as they are in the Mishnah. I mean, they're translated into English. The artist didn't change the words at all. But like the way she draws the illustrations, you get like little senses of her feelings about some of the words. Some of them you can tell she's really moved by. Some of them she's like, what is going on with these guys? But she takes every single word and she has it here. So I love this so much. I look at mine all the time. I have friends who use this as an adult coloring book. They say like, you better be good at coloring if you're gonna do this, but you know, it's like an okay idea. And I wanna give them to you also. Maddie, this is for you. And Claire, this is for you. And Jack, this is for you. Eli, this is for you. So I hope you enjoy. And now let's get ready to return the Torah to the Ark. So we're going to have Jack on Hagba, Maddie on Galila, dressing the Torah, and Eli is going to open the Ark for us. In just a moment, let's turn to page 83. The middle of page 83, and we'll rise as the Torah is lifted. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Torah, 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 Siva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Siva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Siva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Siva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Siva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Siva lanu Moshe. Yashikol. Let's open the Ark. It's Chaim Ki Lama Chazikim Ba V'Tom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha benashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kegeden. ABC. Let's leave it like that. Yeah. It's like halfway left right now. All right. I'd like to invite Marlene Singer, the chair of the Chavra's Board of Directors, up for some announcements. I just saw her. She's poking in and out. Okay. Marlene. Thanks, Marlene. Let's turn to page 107 and sing Ein Kamocha. Or Ein Kamocha. Did I say Ein Kamocha? You know what I mean. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kamoshienu, Micha Eloheinu, Micha Adonenu, Micha Malkeinu, Micha Moshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
And Mazel Tov to our Chizuk students. It's really nice to see our community growing and growing up. And we hope you'll continue to grace us with your presence. Tomorrow morning is, this evening begins Shavuot, and tomorrow morning at 10:30 we have a bagel breakfast outside. So please join us, followed by a program here indoors. And that'll go from 10:30 to 12:30. And then on Monday at 5:30, I assume here in this room, Hannah, the Tikkun Olam?
Probably the Shalom room.
Okay, so the Teen Tikkun Olam showcase is happening at from 5:30 to 6:30.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, okay. Shmuzi says.
Ooh, I figured that out.
Okay.
Good to know.
We've got Tad Shabbat. We have several mitzvahs coming up. And our next Kabbalat Shabbat service and potluck dinner is here in this room on Friday, June 17th at 6:30. And just a reminder, summer is here and everybody's traveling and we're busy with all kinds of other things, but we will still be having services, both our regular Friday night service and our regular Shabbat morning service, and we'd love to see you here. And so thank you all for coming, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks, Marlene. Shabbat Shalom. We'll begin to move towards concluding our service with a Leinu, but I'd like to invite Eli and Jack up to bring us into the prayer.
Aleinu envisions a time when people will come together in peace. World peace is a world where a nation is able to come to an agreement without any violent conflict. World peace is a world where the media only tell the truth, and there are no pointless conflicts like what we see today in Ukraine.
I haven't thought too much about what world peace would look like because it seems so much of a fantasy to ever actually come. I always assumed it was human nature to fight and argue and have prejudice. The best we can do is rid ourselves of prejudice and violence and hope others will follow.
Eli. Please rise in body or in spirit for Aleinu, page 108.
Aleinu l'shabei l'adon hakol, l'atid gedula l'yoseh b'reshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam cholkeinu gahem, v'gol aleinu k'chol ha'olam, v'nachnu kolim ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושל יתרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו ופסולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשבות בלבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. You may be seated. I'd like to invite Claire up to join Eli in bringing us in to the Mourner's Kaddish on page 111. I plan to honor my loved ones by being my best self. I will not forget about my loved ones, but I will move on. I think the best thing for them is that we are able to move on and remember them while still working on ourselves.
I honor loved ones who have passed away by remembering them, discussing memories of them with other loved ones, and thinking of them. I plan to honor loved ones who have passed away by memorializing them during services, wishing them well.
Shabbat. So if you're observing a yard site, or if you're in mourning, having lost someone in recent days, this past year, or this time of year in years past, I invite you to rise, say their names. We are also in this community remembering Maria Linda Brown, the wife of Larry Brown, Jerome Raphael, the father of Nan Raphael, Harry Arthur Neville, father of Amy Neville and grandfather of Cora Neville, and Frances Kreiselman, the grandmother of Joanna Kreiselman. Please rise if it is your custom for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, ve'alma divra chiyutei, ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayecho u'v'yomecho u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'alam u'lamei almaya. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפעל ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדל ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה לכו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במלומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו amen. You may be seated. I'd like to invite up the whole Chizuk class to join me in leading us in our final song, Adon Olam, page 112. אדון עולם, אשר מלך, בטרם כל, בצידי בעלי נשא, לחפשו, אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם, ואחרי יכלות הכל, ולבדו ימלוך נורא אדון עולם, והוא היה, והוא עומד, והוא יהיה בציפה האדון עולם, אדון עולם. אשר מלך בטרם כל, בצידי בעלי נשא, לחפשו, אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם, והוא אחד ואין שני, לעם שלו להכבירה אדון עולם, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמזרע אדון עולם, אדון עולם. אשר מלך בטרם כל, בצידי בעלי נשא, לחפשו, אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם, והוא אלי, וחי גואלי, וזרוח אבי בעת צרה אדון עולם, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, ונח כוסי ביום נקרא אדון עולם, אדון עולם. אשר מלך בטרם כל, בצידי בעלי נשא, לחפשו, אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם, בידו הפקיד רוחי, ועת תישן באירה אדון עולם, ואם רוחי בביאתי, אדון לי ולא יראו אדון עולם. Yasher koach. Shabbat Shalom. Let's say bye and Shabbat Shalom to the live streamers, and we'll join together in the back. The new class will lead us in Kiddush and Motzi, and we'll have some bagels and have some cake and celebrate. Come on.